Dr. Han Jisoo stared through the massive window of the space station. Earth looked small from up here, a blue marble floating in the darkness. Today was the day humanity would meet the Galactic Council for the first time, and she had to make sure everything went perfectly. "They're here," her assistant said from behind her. 3 alien ships appeared from nowhere, their silver hulls gleaming in the sunlight. They were beautiful but strange, shaped like giant teardrops. Jisoo straightened her jacket and walked to the meeting room. As Earth's chief negotiator, the next few hours would shape humanity's future. The doors opened, and she got her first look at the aliens. They looked almost human, except for their pale blue skin and completely white eyes. The leader, who introduced himself as Administrator Ko Sung-min, was tall and thin. He barely looked at Jisoo as he sat down. "We thank you for accepting our invitation to join the Galactic Council's trade network," Sung-min said in perfect English. His voice sounded like it was coming from everywhere at once. "Though I must say, we don't expect much from your world." Jisoo kept her face calm, even though his words made her angry. "Earth has much to offer," she said. "We have rich cultures, advanced technology, and many natural resources." Sung-min touched a small device on his wrist. A hologram appeared, showing Earth's surface. "We have scanned your planet thoroughly," he said. "Your technology is basic. Your metals are common. Your water is plentiful, but can be found on thousands of other worlds." He waved his hand, and the hologram disappeared. "We are only here because our laws say we must offer membership to all intelligent species." Jisoo watched as her team of scientists and diplomats shifted uncomfortably in their seats. They had hoped for a friendly welcome, not this dismissal of everything humanity had achieved. "Perhaps you could tell us what trading rights we would have?" Jisoo asked, keeping her voice steady. "You may trade basic goods with nearby systems," Sung-min said. "Nothing more. Your world is—" He paused, searching for the right word. "Worthless, by galactic standards." The room went quiet. Jisoo felt her hands shake slightly under the table, but she kept her face professional. 20 years of diplomatic work had prepared her for difficult meetings, but this was something else entirely. "Administrator," she said carefully, "even if you find our resources common, surely our people's creativity and spirit count for something." Sung-min's white eyes turned to her. "Spirit." He laughed, and it sounded like breaking glass. "Spirit does not power ships. Spirit does not build stations. Spirit does not feed people." He stood up. "We will send you the standard trade agreement for primitive worlds. You have 1 Earth month to sign it." As the alien delegation left the room, Jisoo stayed seated, looking at her notes without really seeing them. Her assistant touched her shoulder gently. "Dr. Han," he said, "what do we do now?" Jisoo looked up at the stars through the window. Somewhere out there, thousands of advanced civilizations were going about their business, thinking of Earth as nothing more than a worthless rock in space. She thought about all the human achievements throughout history, building pyramids, flying planes, curing diseases, reaching space, all dismissed in a single meeting. "Now," she said, standing up straight, "now we prove them wrong. Humanity has faced impossible odds before. We've been underestimated before." She looked at her team, seeing determination replace disappointment in their eyes. "They think they know everything about Earth just from scanning its surface. Then maybe it's time we look deeper." She didn't know it then, but those words would turn out to be more important than she could have imagined. Deep below her feet, hidden from the alien scans, something ancient was waiting to be found. Something that would change everything. The meeting room slowly emptied as her team left to report back to Earth's governments. Jisoo stayed behind, watching the alien ships disappear into space. They had called Earth worthless. She smiled slightly. In her experience, those who dismissed others so quickly often ended up being surprised. And surprises, she thought, were one thing humans were very good at creating. Dr. Lee Minna had been staring at her computer screen for so long that her eyes hurt. Something wasn't right with the readings from the deep Earth sensors. At first, she thought the equipment was broken, but after 3 weeks of checking, she knew this was something else entirely. Du Young, she called to her research partner. Can you look at this? Dr. Park Du Young walked over, carrying his coffee cup. The two scientists had worked together for 5 years in the Advanced Earth Sciences Division. After the aliens had called Earth worthless, their funding had actually increased. World governments wanted to prove Earth had value. These energy patterns, Du Young said, pointing at the screen. They're not natural. They're too regular. He put down his coffee and started typing. Let me adjust the scanning depth. The image on the screen changed. Now they could see deeper into Earth's mantle, almost to the core. Minna gasped. The random energy patterns she had been studying formed a clear picture now, lines of crystal-like structures, spreading out like a giant web inside the Earth. This can't be right, she said, but her voice shook with excitement. Du Young, if these readings are correct. Then there's something down there, he finished. Something big, something artificial. They spent the next 12 hours checking their data. They used different sensors, different computers, different scanning methods. The results were always the same. There was a vast network of crystal structures deep within Earth, giving off energy readings unlike anything they had ever seen. Minna called an emergency meeting with the division head. By morning, their small lab was full of people. Scientists crowded around screens, pointing and arguing. Security guards stood at the doors. We need better scanning equipment, Minna told the room. The alien surface scans missed this completely. We need to go deeper, get clearer images. Du Young was already working on a solution. He had been developing new scanning technology for years. We can modify our deep core scanners, he said, but we'll need more power. A lot more. The division head looked worried. How much more? Enough to drain half of Seoul's power grid, Du Young said quietly. The room went silent. Then Minna stood up. We have to do it, she said. Think about what this could mean. The aliens said Earth was worthless because they only looked at the surface. But what if Earth's real value is hidden deeper? 3 days later, they were ready. The government had approved their power usage. Half of Seoul would go dark for 30 minutes, but they had only told people it was for critical research. Minna watched as Du Young's new scanner powered up. The machine hummed loudly, making the floor vibrate. On the main screen, images began to appear. The crystal structures were beautiful. They formed perfect geometric patterns, stretching for thousands of miles through Earth's mantle. They seemed to pulse with energy, like a giant heartbeat. Look at the energy readings, Du Young said, his voice full of awe. These crystals, they're not just sitting there, they're doing something. They're active. Minna looked closer at the data. The crystals weren't just producing energy. They were channeling it, storing it, moving it around the planet in specific patterns. This wasn't a natural formation. This was technology buried deep within Earth. How old do you think this is? She asked. Du Young checked some numbers. Based on the surrounding rock layers, at least 1 million years, maybe more. Minna sat down heavily in her chair. Someone built this, she said. Long before humans existed, someone built a giant energy network inside Earth. As their computers collected more data, Minna thought about what this meant. The aliens had dismissed Earth after a simple surface scan. They hadn't bothered to look deeper. But now, she and Du Young had found something that could change everything. She reached for her phone. It was time to call Dr. Han Ji-soo. The chief negotiator needed to know that Earth wasn't worthless after all. It was hiding one of the biggest secrets in the galaxy. Kim Ta-won arrived at the research facility 2 days after Dr. Lee Minna's discovery. As one of Earth's leading quantum physicists, he had dropped everything when he received her call. Now looking at the scanner data, he understood why. These energy patterns, he said, pointing to the screen. They're not random. They're following quantum principles we've only theorized about. He turned to Minna and Du Young. This is incredible. These crystals aren't just storing energy. They're processing it. Minna nodded. Like a computer. More like a planet-sized quantum network, Taiwan said. He typed quickly on his keyboard, bringing up new diagrams. See these patterns? They remind me of neural pathways. It's as if the entire planet has a nervous system made of crystals. Do Young had been quiet, studying the deep scans. Look at this, he said suddenly. The network isn't complete. There are gaps, places where crystals should be but aren't. They gathered around his screen. He was right. The crystal network had empty spaces, like a puzzle with missing pieces. Some sections looked damaged, others simply absent. It's old, Minna said. Very old. Maybe parts of it broke down over time. Taiwan shook his head. No, look closer. These aren't random gaps. They're access points. He pointed to several locations. Someone built this network with maintenance in mind. They created ways to reach it from the surface. The implications hit them all at once. If there were access points, they could potentially reach the crystal network, study it up close, maybe even use it. They worked through the night, mapping the access points. Most were buried under miles of rock or under oceans, but they found one that might be reachable, deep in an old mine shaft in South Korea. We need to go down there, Minna said. We need to see these crystals ourselves. 2 days later, they were preparing to descend into the mine. The government had cleared the area, citing geological research. Special equipment had been brought in, along with a team of mining experts. As they rode the elevator down, Taiwan explained his latest findings to Minna and Du Young. The energy these crystals produce, it's clean, unlimited, and more powerful than anything we've ever seen. One crystal the size of my hand could power a city for a year. The elevator stopped nearly 2 miles underground. They stepped out into a tunnel that had been abandoned for decades. Their lights showed old railway tracks and rusty tools. The access point should be through there, Du Young said, pointing to a narrow passage. They walked carefully, following their sensors. Then they saw it. Through a crack in the rock wall, something glowed with a soft blue light. Du Young used their new cutting tools to carefully widen the opening. The crystal chamber took their breath away. It was like stepping into a cathedral made of light. Crystals of all sizes grew from the walls, pulsing gently with inner energy. They formed perfect geometric patterns that seemed to stretch endlessly into the darkness. Minna approached one of the smaller crystals. As she got closer, something strange happened. The crystal's glow brightened, responding to her presence. That's not possible, Taiwan whispered. He checked his instruments. The crystal, it's reacting to her brainwaves. It's responding to human neural patterns. They tested it multiple times. The crystals responded to all of them, adjusting their energy output to match their brain activity. It wasn't just a power source or a computer network. It was something designed to work with human minds. This changes everything, Minna said, looking at the glowing crystals. We're not just sitting on top of an ancient power source. We're connected to it. Whoever built this, they built it for us. They built it for humans. The implications were staggering. Earth wasn't a worthless rock. It was a carefully prepared gift, waiting for humanity to grow advanced enough to find it and use it. Now they just had to figure out how to tell the world and the galaxy what they had found. News of the crystal discovery spread faster than anyone expected. Within days, Choi Yun-ho, the Galactic Council's observer on Earth, requested an immediate meeting with Earth's leaders. Secretary General Ba Hai-jin sat at the head of the emergency meeting table. Around her sat Dr. Han Ji-soo, the research team, and representatives from Earth's major nations. Across from them, Yun-ho's pale blue skin seemed to glow under the room's bright lights. Your unauthorized deep scanning activities have raised concerns, Yun-ho said. His white eyes moved from person to person. The council requires a full report on what you have found. Hai-Jin kept her face calm, though inside she felt worried. Observer Choi, we were unaware that scanning our own planet required authorization. Everything requires authorization, Yunho said. He touched his wrist device, and a hologram appeared above the table. It showed ships, hundreds of them, moving through space. These vessels belong to various council members. They are all suddenly very interested in visiting Earth. Jisoo watched the hologram with growing concern. She had spent enough time with aliens to know when something was wrong. Why such sudden interest in a worthless planet? She asked carefully. Yunho's expression changed slightly. The council is reconsidering Earth's status. Because of what we found? Minna asked. She had been quiet until now, but she couldn't stay silent anymore. The crystal network that your surface scans missed. The council believes such advanced technology should be properly managed, Yunho said, by more experienced species. The room went quiet. Everyone understood what he meant. The council wanted to take control of the crystals. That won't be possible, Taiwan said suddenly. All eyes turned to him. The crystals respond only to human neural patterns. We've tested this extensively. No other species can activate them. Yunho stood up sharply. Impossible. You must share your research data immediately. No, Hai-Jin said firmly. The Secretary General's voice was strong and clear. Earth's resources belong to Earth. The Council made that very clear when they call us worthless. We will develop this technology ourselves. The Council will not accept this, Yunho said. His voice had become cold. If Earth refuses to cooperate, there will be consequences. Trade restrictions, isolation, perhaps worse. Do-Yum looked at his tablet and whispered something to Minna. She nodded and spoke up. Our sensors show 12 ships have entered the solar system without permission. 3 more appear every hour. Hai-Jin stood up, matching Yunho's height. Are we under invasion? Observer Choi. The Council prefers to call it protective oversight, Yunho said. For your own good, of course. Jisoo had seen enough. She pressed a button on the table, and screens around the room lit up. They showed Earth's new defense satellites, technology they had developed in secret since first contact. Perhaps, she said quietly, the Council should reconsider. Earth may have more surprises than just crystals. Yunho looked at the screens, then back at the humans. For the first time, he seemed uncertain. You dare to threaten the Council? No threat, Hai-Jin said. Just a reminder that appearances can be deceiving. You called Earth worthless without looking deeper. What else might you have missed? As Yunho left the meeting, the humans stayed behind. They knew this was just the beginning. The crystal network had changed everything, but it had also put Earth in danger. We need more time, Minna said. Time to understand the crystals, to learn how to use them properly. Hai-Jin nodded. Then we'll buy you that time. Whatever it takes. She looked at each person in the room. Earth has been underestimated for too long. Perhaps it's time to show the galaxy what humanity can really do. 3 weeks after the tense meeting with Observer Choi, Earth's situation had grown worse. More alien ships filled the space around Earth every day. The Galactic Council had sent their special envoy, Nam Woo-jin, to deliver their final decision. The meeting room in the United Nations building was silent as Woo-jin spoke. His voice was smooth and pleasant, which made his words even more frightening. The Council has reached its decision, he said. Earth must surrender control of all subsurface resources for the greater good of the galaxy. You have 48 hours to comply. Dr. Han Jisoo sat next to Secretary General Ba Hai-Jin, watching the faces around the room. World leaders joined through secure video links, their expressions showing a mix of anger and fear. And if we refuse? Hai-Jin asked, her voice steady. Woo-jin smiled slightly. Then Earth will be cut off from all galactic trade routes. No ships will be allowed to enter or leave your system. Your planet will be alone. We were alone before, Jisoo said. We survived. But you know about us now, Woo-jin said. Your people have seen the stars, learned what lies beyond their small world. Can you really go back to being isolated? To being nothing? In the research facility below the building, Minna, Du Young, and Taiwan watched the meeting through a video feed. They had worked day and night trying to understand the crystal network. Now they needed more time. We're close to something, Minna said, looking at their latest test results. The crystals aren't just responding to us anymore. They're teaching us. Do Young nodded. Every time they worked with the crystals, new patterns appeared. New connections formed. It was like the network was slowly waking up, sharing its secrets with them. Back in the meeting room, Wu Jin continued his speech. The council is being generous. We will allow humans to remain on Earth. You may even help manage the crystals, under proper supervision. Proper supervision? Jisoo asked. You mean control? Control is necessary, Wu Jin said. These crystals are too important to leave in the hands of. He paused. Less advanced species. Hai Jin stood up slowly. As Earth's leader, she had spent many nights thinking about this moment. Special Envoy Nam, she said, let me be clear. Earth belongs to humanity. The crystals beneath our surface respond only to us. This is not a coincidence. The Council's scientists believe they can overcome that limitation, Wu Jin said. Your scientists are wrong. Ta Wan's voice came through the room's speakers. He had been listening from the lab. We've discovered why the crystals respond to human neural patterns. They were designed that way. Designed for us. Wu Jin's calm expression cracked slightly. Impossible. No species would. Build a power network and hide it until the right species evolved to use it. Jisoo finished for him. Look deeper into your council's history, Envoy Nam. You might find some surprises. The room grew tense as Wu Jin stood up. You have 48 hours, he said. The council's decision is final. He walked to the door, but stopped and turned back. Consider carefully what isolation would mean for Earth. After he left, Hai Jin turned to the screens showing world leaders. We need to make a decision, she said. All of humanity needs to agree. Do we surrender or do we stand our ground? The answers came quickly. China, Russia, the United States, the European Union. One by one, they gave the same response. Earth would not bow to threats. Then it's decided, Hai Jin said. She looked at Jisoo. Send our answer to the council. Tell them Earth belongs to humanity. Tell them we choose to stand together. In the lab below, the crystal network pulsed with new energy, as if it approved of their choice. The 48 hours had passed. As promised, the Galactic Council closed all trade routes to Earth. Hundreds of alien ships formed a blockade around the planet. But humanity was not sitting idle. In the underground research facility, Dr. Lee Minna made a breakthrough. She had been working with the crystal network for days without sleep, when something extraordinary happened. The crystals aren't just responding to our thoughts, she told Du Young and Taiwan. They're responding to our emotions too. Our determination, our unity. It's making them stronger. Du Young checked the energy readings. The numbers were higher than ever before. She's right, he said. The network is producing 10 times more power than last week. They called Secretary General Ba Hai-jin and Dr. Han Jisoo to the facility immediately. When the leaders arrived, Minna showed them what she had discovered. Watch this, she said. She placed her hand on a crystal and closed her eyes. The crystal began to glow brighter, its light spreading through the network of crystals around them. Now, she said, everyone join hands and focus on the crystal. When they all touched the crystal together, the reaction was amazing. The entire chamber lit up with brilliant blue light. Energy readings went off the charts. The crystal network was responding to their combined human presence. This is what we've been missing, Taiwan said excitedly. The network wasn't built for individual humans. It was built for humanity working together. Above ground, the alien ships were preparing to enforce their blockade. But they didn't know what was happening beneath Earth's surface. The research team worked quickly to build interfaces that could connect to the crystal network. They installed them in key locations around the world. As more humans learned to connect with the crystals, the network grew stronger. "We're ready for the first global test," Minna announced 1 week later. Leaders from every nation had gathered to witness the event. The test was simple but powerful. When thousands of humans connected to the crystal network at the same time, something incredible happened. The energy output was enormous, clean, and perfectly controlled. "With this much power," Du Young said, "we could run every city on Earth forever. We could build ships better than anything the Council has. We could protect ourselves." In orbit, the alien ships noticed something strange. Their sensors detected massive energy signatures coming from Earth, energy unlike anything they had seen before. Special Envoy Nam Mujin demanded an emergency meeting. When he arrived at the facility, his white eyes widened at the sight of the glowing crystal chamber. "Impossible," he whispered. "Our scientists said this level of crystal integration would take centuries." "Your scientists don't understand humans very well," Jisoo said. "When we work together, when we're challenged, we can do amazing things." Hai-Jin stepped forward. "We have a message for the Council," she said. "Earth is not surrendering its resources. We are not asking for permission to use what was clearly left here for us. And we are not afraid of isolation." The crystal chamber pulsed with blue light, as if emphasizing her words. Wu Jin looked around at the determined faces of the humans. For the first time, he seemed to understand that his council had made a serious mistake. They had called Earth worthless. They had tried to bully humanity. And in doing so, they had united the human race like never before. Now that unity was powering something ancient and powerful, something that was changing the balance of power in the galaxy. Earth wasn't worthless after all. It was just getting started. Kim Ta-won made the discovery late one night while studying the crystal network's energy patterns. At first, he thought he was too tired and seeing things. But the numbers were clear. The crystal network wasn't just a power system. It was a map. He called Minna and Du Young immediately. When they arrived at the lab, he showed them what he had found. "Look at these energy lines," he said, pointing to his screen. "They don't just connect around Earth. They point to specific places in space. They're coordinates." Minna studied the patterns carefully. "Coordinates to what?" "To other networks," Taiwan said. His voice shook with excitement. "Earth isn't alone. There are other crystal networks out there, on other worlds." Earth was the center of it all. They worked through the night, following the energy patterns. Each line led to another star system. Some of these systems were known to the Galactic Council. Others were not on any modern star charts. Dr. Han Jisoo arrived the next morning to find the research team still working. Their discovery was too important to wait. "The crystal network is part of something much bigger," Minna explained. "It was built by an ancient civilization. They created a massive power distribution system across multiple star systems, with Earth at its heart." "Why Earth?" Jisoo asked. Taiwan pulled up new data on the main screen. "Because of us. Because of humans. Our brains have a unique pattern. The same pattern this ancient civilization used to control the network." The implications were enormous. Earth wasn't just another planet. It was the birthplace of something important. The crystal network had been waiting for humans to evolve, to grow advanced enough to find it and use it. Secretary General Ba Hai-jin called an emergency meeting with the Galactic Council representatives. When Special Envoy Nam Mujin arrived, the research team shared their findings. "Impossible," Wu Jin said, but his voice lacked conviction. "The Council's records go back millions of years. We would know about such a civilization." "Would you?" Du Young asked. He showed images of the other worlds with crystal networks. "Many of these systems aren't even in your star charts. How much of the galaxy have you really explored?" Wu Jin was quiet for a long time. Then he said something surprising. "There are stories. Very old stories. about a civilization that vanished long ago. They were said to have mastered crystal technology, but all trace of them disappeared. They didn't disappear, Minna said. They planned ahead. They built this network and waited for the right species to find it. They'd waited for us. The evidence was clear. The crystal patterns matched human neural patterns perfectly. The network responded to human thoughts and emotions in ways that couldn't be copied or faked. Earth wasn't just another planet in the galaxy. It was the key to an ancient power system that spanned the stars. The Council must know about this, Wu Jin said. Yes, Hai Jin agreed, but not because you're forcing us. We'll share this discovery with the galaxy, but on our terms. Earth is the center of this network. These crystals respond only to humans. We are not asking for permission to claim what was clearly meant for us. As if responding to her words, the crystal network pulsed with bright blue light. In labs around the world, other crystals lit up too. The ancient network was awakening, recognizing its chosen inheritors at last. Earth wasn't worthless. It was the heart of something amazing, something that would change the galaxy forever. 1 year had passed since the discovery of Earth's true nature. The planet that was once called worthless had become the most important world in the galaxy. In the main crystal chamber, Dr. Han Jisoo stood with Secretary General Ba Haijin, watching delegates from across the galaxy arrive for the first Earth-led galactic conference. It's hard to believe how much has changed, Jisoo said, looking at the crystal network glowing softly around them. The crystals pulsed with a steady blue light, powered by the combined presence of thousands of humans working together. Haijin nodded. They called us worthless without looking deeper. Now they come to us for help. In the past year, Dr. Li Minai and her team had made incredible progress. They had learned to use the crystal network to power new technologies that the galaxy had never seen before. Clean energy flowed from Earth to other worlds through the ancient network, helping planets that had struggled with power problems for centuries. Dr. Park Do-young had developed new ships using crystal technology. These ships could travel faster and safer than anything the Galactic Council had, but they only worked with human pilots, just as the crystals only responded to human minds. Kim Ta-won's research had revealed more about the ancient civilization that built the network. They had been master builders who could see far into the future. They had known their time was ending, so they created this gift for the species that would one day be ready to use it: humanity. The conference room filled with alien delegates. Among them was Nam Wu-jin, no longer a special envoy, but now the Galactic Council's ambassador to Earth. He had helped smooth things over when Earth's true importance became clear. The Council acknowledges Earth's special position, Wu Jin said, standing to address the room. We were wrong to judge your world by its surface alone. We were wrong to threaten you. Today we come as equals, seeking partnership. Hai Jin stepped forward to speak. The crystals brightened as she did, responding to her presence. Earth accepts your friendship, she said. But this time, we will write the rules together. The crystal network was left for humanity to find, but its benefits should be shared with all peaceful worlds. The alien delegates nodded in agreement. They had seen what the crystal network could do when properly used. They had seen how humans could make it work in ways their own scientists could not. In the research lab below, Minna was teaching a group of young scientists from different worlds. She showed them how the crystals worked, even though they couldn't activate them themselves. Understanding leads to cooperation, she told them. We may be the only ones who can use the network, but we can all benefit from it together. Outside the facility, Earth had changed. Cities gleamed with crystal-powered technology. New buildings reached into the sky, their walls lined with smaller crystals that provided endless clean energy. Ships came and went from the spaceports, carrying humans to other worlds where they helped activate old crystal networks that had laid dormant for millions of years. Jisoo looked out at her changed world and smiled. They thought Earth was worthless, she said quietly. But worth isn't always visible on the surface. Sometimes the most valuable things are hidden, waiting to be found by those who look deeper. The crystal network pulsed in agreement, its light spreading through the ancient pathways that connected Earth to the stars. Humanity had found its place in the galaxy at last, not as a worthless primitive world, but as the key to unlocking the greatest power the galaxy had ever known.